On the 10th of January 2023, I messaged a good friend of mine with an idea for a game that I'd been thinking about. At the time, it was just a combination of ideas. No plan, no design, just ideas. But what was this idea? A pixel art style tower defense game. And on the 10th of January, I put together a concept in 24 hours. I wanted to see if I could bring my idea to life. And it was something. But it in no way resembled this idea that I had. But it had the skeleton. It gave me confidence, and it pushed me to know that this was probably something that I could do. In April of 2023, I started developing this game. But it wasn't long after I started that I got a job in an indie game studio. So development became a bit difficult. Sometimes I wouldn't touch the project for a few days. Then the days turned into weeks. And eventually a few months of progress was lost. But somehow, I always came back to the project. And a few months ago, I found my legs in development, and I was able to put together a really clean overhaul. Visually, it might not be that different, but on the back end, things were handled a lot better. And that motivated me to take this project to the next level. Now, almost 2 years since I made the first prototype, I'm in a position where I can work on this project full time. I can't reveal all the details just yet, but I will say this. I'm going to bring my dream to life. So, let's jump into the state of the game and some recent changes. The way I've been making this game so far, I was largely prioritizing content that I thought would mostly be interesting for these devlogs. I rushed the visuals to keep it engaging, and I kept trying to add some new feature in while ignoring the state of the old ones. But being able to dedicate more hours to this project now means that I don't have to think about what would be good to make a video on. A lot of that may just come as part of it. To begin, from the very start of this project, the path generation was happening procedurally, which wasn't always producing amazing or consistently fun results. But the bigger thing was that it was a singular path. There were no branching paths, and with the scope that the project was in, it wasn't something I ever thought to change. But now that I'm given this opportunity, I have now been able to add branching paths in. In the last devlog, I showed how I created a level tester so that I can test abilities and upgrades, but I've extended this functionality to now allow support for my own custom map generation. So I can make a map that looks like this. And it may look like a good map, but there's a few dead ends and there's some rogue tiles as well. Well, we can add the map validator and it'll immediately highlight the issues. Let's fix these up and revalidate. Perfect, we now have a working map. The way the logic for this works is that it supports a starting position and an end position. And at the moment it's only looking for one start and one end. But I may be able to extend it so that it can support multiple starts and multiple ends, eventually. The way it's validating these maps is by traversing the paths from the start. Each path variation has a unique flag setup. Let's take this out of isometric for a second and treat it like a top-down grid. Each edge has a corresponding letter, A, B, C, or D. Every single path will have a different set of these letters. So by setting the letters up as an enum flag, we're actually able to assign the combinations to the paths themselves. When the validating occurs, it looks at the current tile's flags. Let's say a vertical line will have A and C. If it's the first tile that's being checked, then we know that A is our entry. So we won't have any corresponding pieces there. So we'll check in the C direction, which will be Y-1. Then there's a few checks that happen here. First, we see if there's a matching path in that location. Then we see if the matching path has the inverse combination. And the inverse combinations are like this. A C exit will combine with an A entry. An A exit will combine with a C entry. A B exit will combine with a D entry. And a D exit will combine with a B entry. You following? Well, we don't necessarily care what combination of letters the next path has, as long as it has the inverse of the one we're checking. And from our example, the previous path was a C, meaning we're looking for an A. This algorithm loops all the way until we get to the end, and similar to the start, the end is checking if our Y position is at the bottom of the grid and that we have a C exit. Now this validator works perfectly, but it doesn't stop there. An extra check is also being made for more complicated maps. Say you have some branching directions like this. Well, it doesn't really make sense for an enemy to start walking and possibly get lost, or to backtrack, or to retrace its previous steps. So I added a way for that to not happen and to store unique path combinations. When you validate the paths, in a separate object, we're given our pathing combinations. And for debugging purposes, I can highlight what these paths look like. I even had a map made that looks like this, which generated over 800 unique paths. I also have a way of storing these custom maps as a unique JSON file. We create the maps, and it doesn't just have to be the paths, we can create objects and stuff as well, give it a name, and hit save. Inside of our level file scriptable object, if we write down the name as the level ID, when we load the map, it will deserialize it and produce the map and give us the unique pathing options as well. Now the good thing about the pathing is that since all values are treated equally, we can give different enemies different pathing types. So a faster enemy might choose the longer path, where the slower enemy might choose the shorter path. We can also go back to our editor page and the list of maps will automatically update to reflect the newest one that we've just created. We can also select either the dummy level tester to test the in-game properties or the map creator to continue working on the map and add different options. The last big change is that there is a working save system in the game now. There was always partial saving if you unlocked a character or an upgrade, that would be persistent, but say you're playing a mission, you're 20 levels deep when mum calls you for dinner. Well, you can now save the game, and when you start the game up again, there'll be a new button that appears in the main menu which allows you to continue your game. The wave will be remembered, all the heroes you placed will be remembered, and all the upgrades that you applied will be remembered. That's pretty much it for the content changes, but there's more on the story side. Now, up until this point, there hasn't really been a set story for the game. All I was working with was Greek mythology, but I have a pretty loose concept of the story as well. So without spoiling too much, let me give you the rundown. In a fictional location inspired by ancient Greece, you arrive in a rundown town. It's the product of the attacks by creatures from Greek mythology. The chimeras, minotaurs, the whole works. The nation is in ruins. The people are desperate and enlist your help. You act as the overseer who hires heroes that are capable of protecting the land. Being a tower defense game, your goal is to not let the creatures into the town. Successfully doing that will reward you currency in the game, and the currency can be used in multiple ways. Rebuilding the town to unlock new areas in the main map, upgrading heroes, purchasing knowledge to allow perks and permanent upgrades, or to purchase new heroes, among a few others. There's quests that are being designed into the game for various purposes as well, so they can assist in hero unlocks or they can provide extra money and consumables. And like I said, I am able to spend a lot of time on this, so expect to see a lot of updates in the coming few months as I make my dream a reality. If you have a dream game that you want to make a reality as well, then there's no better place to start than with today's sponsor, Brilliant.org. Brilliant has thousands of interactive lessons that range from fundamental math and science to complex code and AI to better understand what it takes to be a programmer. If you're just getting into game development, then one of the most important things you can do is build your fundamental programming knowledge. And Brilliant's award-winning team of teachers have put together some of the best courses to get you started on making your dream a reality. There are some days when working on my dream project where I just straight up don't feel like it, but a practice I got into is just opening the project. Even just 5 minutes a day, the progress and my own learning continues to grow. And that's the learning model behind Brilliant. With the growing catalog of courses, there's a lesson fitted just for you. If you want to jump in and try this yourself, Brilliant offers a full 30-day free trial when you visit brilliant.org/Garnet. And if you sign up, you will also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Thank you Brilliant for supporting the channel. Now back to the video. In the last devlog, I showed the level tester that I made, and this was really good for seeing how projectiles would work, whether that's the trajectory or the actual effect, but I didn't show too much. And I do want to keep a lot of it a surprise for you to figure out, but I'll show you one of the new ones I've been working on, which are bouncing projectiles. Basically, when a projectile comes into contact with an enemy, and if it has the bounce attribute, then it can redirect to a different enemy, still within the range. This is particularly cool because you can get things that look like this. And it doesn't really stop there, because projectiles can synergize, and I have another ability called Swarm, which, similar to an AoE, you get a projectile that explodes into smaller projectiles like this. And with these swarming projectiles, you can actually give them abilities as well, meaning you can get something that looks like this. There are a ton of abilities that I'm coming up with, meaning heaps of variations and weapon types. So get keen and have fun finding the combinations. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up today's devlog. If you guys are keen to check more out, be sure to subscribe to the channel and come join my Discord. I'm constantly posting updates there and I'd love to get feedback as the project develops. Thanks for watching today's video and I'll catch you all soon.